What was your childhood like with what people told you could be, couldn't be?
When I was a kid, I got the standard you can be anything, whatever you want. You
Right.
can be a pro athlete or a president, and I didn't really believe it. Like, yeah, sure, we can't all be president. There's one
Right.
guy.
Yeah. There's only been so many in the history of the United States.
Yeah.
So, did you have any inkling growing up, like, and you get so then when you get into your teen years, we start looking at usually in the early teen years is that first time of not being part of a crowd and not understanding, like, how do I become part of the crowd? So,
Mm.
did you ever have those moments in early teens where you're like, wait a minute?
To some extent, yeah. Like in high school, I didn't fit in, and then I started working like immediately. Like this, the first day they let me, I went and got my work permit and started working. And it was like, all right, now
Um,
you're at a company and you've got your work friends, and they have to hang out with you. You're doing work, but yeah.
right. So that was more your community was more the work community.
Yeah, work and also growing up, I was always on team sports, so I always, you all sign up, you're all on the same team, you make your friends within the team, but you got a kind of pre-made group that.
Yeah. Well, that's the nice part of sports, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of built in. Like, yeah, he's part of the team, so there's a familiarity with that. So then, what in high school? Because we'll get into the real estate stuff later. But what was your thought in high school, coming out of high school, of what do I want to do with?
Yeah, so I thought I was gonna have a military career, so I trained a lot, and then all through
Okay.
high school, and then my area didn't have ROTC, so then I moved up to Sacramento and
Okay.
went to the community college there, and then the ROTC program at Sacramento State.
Oh, okay. So is that where you graduated from?
No,
Sac State.
I had my motorcycle wreck like a couple weeks after joining the ROTC program.
Oh, geez. All right. Well, we'll get into that then. So how old were you at when?
That I was 19, like just barely turned 19.
Okay. And then bad motorcycle crash.
Yeah, so yeah, I was on my way home from school to go to work. I had to go home and drop my stuff and change, put on my work uniform and stuff, and
Right.
I was going straight, and the lady turned left in front of me, and my front tire locked under her front tire, and I got catapulted into a concrete light pole, and I hit it like a couple millimeters left of center, and just
Oh, geez.
crushed everything it hit. It broke my broke my femur, it broke my ribs, it broke my sternum, broke my collarbone, my lower jaw, my upper jaw, broke my spine in three places, broke my scapula, broke my arm, punctured and collapsed both lungs. It severed, yeah, it severed two arteries, paralyzed this leg, and then later on I lost this arm because of it, and then lost all my blood three times and flatlined multiple times and got a, yeah.
That's a huge life pivot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's obviously the initial recovery, right? And then, but if you were a sports guy and a military guy, then the world got totally disrupted of what you thought you were going to do.
Yeah, it was literally, I called my recruiter like 6 weeks later, like, hey, I lost an arm. Does that disqualify me? And he was like,
Yeah.
are you kidding? Yeah.
Maybe I could still do something, but
Yeah.
okay. So then how did you pivot from that to,
I was,
because that's still a young man to be dealing with all that.
yeah, I was, yeah, 19, and I like woke up in the hospital, and the only thing that worked was this arm, my right arm from the elbow down, and was like, all right, what can I do with this? Like, and then yeah, I was like, all right, well, I'll whatever I can do to get better. If all I can do is bicep curls while I lay here, I'll do that, and you get a little better and a little stronger.
Okay.
And then I got where it was like, all right, if I throw my legs out, I can stand up even if I fall back down immediately, and say, all right, so I'll be able to stand again. And that was nice.
Okay.
And
So must have had tons of therapy.
kind of.
Oh, kind of, not really.
No, so yes and no. So the hospital-based therapy that they were trying to give me, I didn't. I felt like they were teaching me to be disabled. They weren't teaching me to get better. It was like, you're in a wheelchair. Don't stand up. It's dangerous for you to stand up. I'm like, I'm gonna stand up. I don't care if I fall. I'm gonna stand back up.
Right. Till I figure it out on my own. Okay.
Yeah, and then
So more rehabbed yourself after that and just
I, I
got back up.
I got lucky, and a friend of the family, her daughter, trained. She was a professional triathlete and got hit by a car on a bike ride, and just kept doing triathlons. And she was like, "You got to meet her. You got to meet her." And she picked me up, and I was still very fresh, but
Right.
do a little bit. And she's like, "All right, triathlon's your new rehab program." And I was like, all right, like you think I can do a triathlon? You seem like you would know.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. That's a huge shift. So you get into triathlons. Had Did you have the prosthesis on your leg at that time? Or
No. So yeah, I started tries and I still have my leg. It's paralyzed. So
okay.
I would swim the swim, I would bike on an adapted bike, and I would walk the run.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so that was very slow.
Yeah, but still you're out there, right? So how was your mental state through all that?
um Initially it was kind of, I didn't, just question marks. No one knew anything. Like,
Right.
we don't know what level you can rise to or if you'll rise to any level at all. I had people say you'll never leave the hospital and you'll die in 6 months. I had other people go, yeah, you'll be disabled, but whatever, you'll figure it out. And then so
Wow. All right. So you're doing that, you're doing triathlons. Then when did you realize the leg was a problem?
um probably my second year in, because it was like at first, I was last place. It was everyone beats me at everything, and
Right.
then I got where, all right, I can cruise on the swim. I can't keep up with the sprinters or the good swimmers, but I'm mid pack on the swim and I'm good on the bike. I can actually generate a lot of bike power still. And then
Right.
I'd go to the run and I'd be walking and everyone else would be running.
Yeah.
And all those people I had passed would pass me.
We're passing you like, ah.
Like I had him beat up until mile 2 of the 3 mile run, and then he jogged past me.
Yeah. That's rough. Okay. But then when's it like, hey, the leg, we got to take the leg? Was that it?
So I still have my leg. It's still
Right.
there. But
Oh, so it's just, you got the leg, but it's just,
it's called a limb salvage device, and it wraps around my leg.
oh, okay.
So it basically operates like the running blades, same mechanical idea, but then rather than being the whole leg, it wraps around it.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. So you still have it. So that's going well. So you're in that, you're doing the triathlons. When in this does real estate come into the whole? Right.
So in 2009, I bought a duplex in Dana Point right after the crash.
Okay.
It's like, okay, everyone was like bailing, don't buy it, don't buy it. Everyone, people are losing everything, literally.
Right.
And I went, well, that place is 50% of what it was a year ago. Like, I don't care if it goes down another 10%. It's gonna, in 5 years, it'll be worth more than I buy it for now.
Right. Okay. So that was your first investment. And then after that, just more investments and started building up a portfolio.
I just kind of sat on it until I bought the Bakersfield, the Ice Street building.
Oh, okay. So you've had that one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then, so that's how, so we ended up meeting through the parafencing program that I helped Current Athletic Fencing set up.
Yeah.
And then we had that one lunch where we were talking about this idea that I had, which is becoming adaptive sport, and you jumped in. And so what was that like hearing that, the idea, and like because since then you've been really enthusiastic about this whole idea.
Yeah, that was like in Poland at one of the competitions, like not that, like a couple months before I met you, I started reading books on commercial real estate, going, all right, how do I expand my portfolio? What's my next move? And they're like, find a project where you have tenants before you buy a building. And then you're like, we're going to lease space. And I was like, I'm involved in this, I'm completely for it. And you're looking like all the pieces fit.
Yeah, it all came together. Yeah, so you've been traveling around, right? Like competing. So you went from triathlons to fencing, parafencing?
Triathlon to velodrome to fencing, yeah.
Okay. So, and I think that was one of the most amazing things when we were talking was you were there, and then the guy from Dallas was there.
Yeah, Nico, yeah.
Yeah, Nico, and just what it was like to go to the Paralympic competitions and the lack of support, medical support.
Lack of everything support. Like, yeah, I was used to the triathlon and the velodrome program, which are well structured, and you have your qualification times, and you go to these events, and everything's spelled out for you, and it's a very concrete. If you're faster than a minute for my qualification time, it was like 1 minute 12 seconds. You're faster than that, you go to the Olympics. You're above that, you don't. Like,
right. Okay.
Yeah, and Para was like, yeah, we don't have coaches, we don't have equipment. You just kind of spar at your own gym, and I'm like, my club doesn't do para. We don't have frames or chairs.
Right.
I'm doing able-bodied lessons and just not running away. I'm standing and fighting. Like,
Yeah, it's all just one spot, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing. When Lucas called me about the program, I was like, I don't know anything about fencing, but I do know about rehab. So yeah, it's interesting enough to figure it out. But I think that was one of my first shocking things. Like, oh, wait, how do they do this? Because I'd seen some fencing like in the Olympics,
Yeah.
but I was like, wait a minute, what? In wheelchairs? How do you do this? And then you see the chairs that are set up and the device that connects them together.
Yeah.
But it's all just eye hand, right? It's all just quick.
Yeah, they've just basically skipped to the end where in
Yeah, just sit down your arm's length away, and
in normal fencing you got to close a 4 foot gap and there's a lot of back and forth and timing, and then you're within striking distance and then the blade work comes in, and
right.
we just start right there. And
Yeah, the chair is like go, and because I tried it at one of the first galas and was just they tried to give me some pointers, and I was too busy paying attention to the epi or whatever they had. And I kept getting stuck, and I was like, okay, forget this. I'm just going as quick as possible and
Yeah.
try to get points. Like, because as soon as I started like trying to follow where the blade was, you just,
Yeah, if you chase the blade, especially the end of the blade, it's way too fast. You gotta. It's part of it is just looking at their body, and you know that this type of movement is going to hit in this part of the hitbox, and then you got to just react and put it out there, and then your blade becomes like part of your finger, is a big long finger, and when they hit it, you know exactly where it is and what they can do from there.
right. Okay. So then, where's that journey taking you to? So because that part of this whole wheelchair fencing program that we helped set up is with the 2028 Olympics coming to LA.
Yeah.
They wanted to focus on, somehow they picked para fencing as the thing they wanted to focus on. So
Yeah.
are you looking at that? Is that the next goal?
Yeah, so I've been trying to qualify for like the Paralympic Games proper, like, and I almost made it in 2012 for triathlon, and almost made it in 2016 for velodrome, and then almost made it in 2020 for triathlon, and then got canceled, and then
Right. Yeah. Went out.
then for 2024 I was on the edge of qualifying, but I entered the cycle late, so I only had a year worth of points instead of 18 months.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, for my first year it was a rocket incline, like straight up the the list, and
Right.
But yeah, didn't quite make it in 2024. But for 2028, I'm like, all right, this is finally I got the right.
Oh, so that's gonna be it. So that's the goal, is to compete at 2028.
Yeah,
That's awesome, and especially being in close to your home,
yeah.
because you actually live in Orange County, right?
Yep.
Okay. So when did you move down there though? Because you were up at Sac.
So I'm from OC. I live.
Oh,
there.
okay, you were there and then went up. Okay, that's what you mean by go to school. So
Yeah.
you're still in the home area. Okay. So the numbers look good for making 2028. So
Yeah, very good. We'll have more spots available. So part of the issue with Paralympic qualification is like only the top 5 people in the world go. That not every country sends someone.
oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
So like for we have a pretty good team this year. We're actually sending a good number of people, but yeah, like for my division, for Epee and Saber, like we didn't send anyone. No one qualified.
Oh, wow. So when you go, so that's how you get points, is you have to go to, because I know you travel a lot, international events and national events.
Yeah, only the international events count for the Paralympic qualification.
Oh, okay.
And
It's just based on your placement at those.
yeah, you basically get 1 or 2 points for showing up, depending on how many people are there. And then every time you move up a bracket in eliminations, it doubles. So you get 2 points, then 4, then 8, then 16. And
Oh, okay.
those guys that are winning are like, they're getting a lot of points. They get more points in one event than you'll get the whole season for showing up. So.
Oh, yeah. So you can show up every time, but not move on the ladder because the top people.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. So that's happening. Adaptive Sport, we meeting later today to go look at this building you bought, which is awesome. The construction of it, but I think I'm surprised at how few of these kind of facilities are around.
Yeah, they're like, you have the official Olympic Paralympic Training Center, which is mostly the Olympic Training Center. Like we're allowed to go there, but they don't really have para-specific stuff, and you still have ADA access issues, and we're taking freight elevators up to get through 8 doors to get into the area we practice. And
okay, so it's not a good easy access place, right?
Yeah, no. And then, we're limited to the first floor because the second floor, and there's a limited number, it's kind of communal showers that are, they've retrofitted it so that it's possible, but it was never intended to be that.
Right. Yeah, they didn't even think. Probably when they built it, they were like, "Hey, we're gonna have all top tier, able-bodied athletes, right?" And it's like, "Oh, we didn't consider this at the time,"
Yeah.
which I think is part of what my interest of getting into it was. Talking about this idea of a one like wellness center that has physical therapy, has mental health, and then has recreational and accessible equipment. And I didn't realize until I started looking into this how even most gyms don't have a
Yeah.
lot of accessible equipment.
Yeah, if you're in a wheelchair and you go to a gym, all you can maybe make the free weights work, but none of those machines, none of the overhead pull down machines, none of that stuff works for you. So it's very
Right. Yeah. And I thought, and then when I met with you and Nico, it was like, so what do you guys do? Because it's still athletes, right? And then I started in this whole world as an athletic trainer. So I was just shocked to hear, like, when you guys do get injuries, you're just on your own, right? You go to your doc, hopefully find a therapist that understands.
We're messaging each other. Who pulled this muscle? Who's got tennis elbow? What did you do for it?
So it's like the other version of Google, where instead of going on there, you're just calling your friends, like, okay, I'm hurting here. What do I do?
Yeah, totally. It's
How funny. Well, there is actual science behind it. So that's what, up until that point of meeting with you guys, I was thinking of it more as, what, like the regular stuff, right? Someplace to go work out. But that as soon as you guys start talking sports medicine, that's my wheelhouse. I was like, oh, this would be awesome if we had a place where.
Yeah, it's like for para athletes, the bridge between athletics and physical therapy is very blurry. It's kind of both.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's having started as a certified athletic trainer and then became a PT. I think it's still what happens, because physical therapy, yeah, we learn the body, but that jump of kinetic energy needed to do athletics from normal stuff, that's a huge jump, right?
Yeah.
It's a big gap. And when you throw in some kind of a disability in it too, you need all of those steps to understand, how do I get this person back? How do I keep them healthy?
Yeah, that too is the wear and tear. Like, it took me forever to realize I get repetitive use injuries in my foot that I don't feel. So I just have to, it doesn't matter if the rest of me is good. I'm calling in after an hour or 2 hours, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. Because it doesn't work. And we do have a guy, Kevin from Bakersfield, that's moving up, doing well. But I remember with him, it was because I think he lost his left leg and his left arm.
Yeah.
So one of the early things when he started getting into it was, how do we keep you in your chair? Because, you only have one leg, you've got nowhere to move.
Yeah, you lean forward and there's nothing to hold you back.
There's nothing. So how do you tie in? But with you, so you have both legs, so you have a little more ability to move.
Yeah.
Because you have at least two bases of support instead of one.
Yeah, I have both legs strapped in, which means I don't have to have quite such a heavy duty waist strap. So I get a little bit more freedom.
Right. Yeah, I know with him, we tried a bunch of different straps to give him as much movement as possible, but not have him fall out of the chair in the middle of the competition. That's not a good look either. So
yeah, and it still happens no matter how good you're strapped in. You're in a wheelchair, which is designed to move, and now they've strapped this to a frame so it doesn't move anymore, and then they strap you to the chair, and you're trying to lunge out of it full power in every direction
and get back too, right? Because the other person's lunging at you, and
yeah, you're both.
If your only movement's what you can sit and move, it was a weird experience for me. Like, hang on, just mentally when you realize I got nowhere to go. Like,
yeah,
this person's sitting arm length away with a sword, and I can't move. So
there's no running away. There's no retreating. It's you got to stand and fight, and it's over quick, no matter how good you are.
Right. Yeah, I was surprised how fast the points rack up too, because, and even how technical the stuff is, like the suits and the scoring system.
Yeah, it's an electric circuit. You wouldn't know looking at it that that's what it is, but they somehow made an electric circuit out of the sword and the body cord and the conductive fabric and the box. And
Yeah, so as soon as you get touched, the bell goes off, and you can't say, "Oh, he didn't get me," right?
yeah, where did that happen? Check the machine.
Yeah, I don't think that happened. That was a mistake. No, he got you. Well, that's awesome. So you're doing that. You're still how much do you travel a year?
A lot now for the last year especially. So we had more events last year than usual in preparation for Paris. So it was like, I was on like a 4 or 5 week cycle of be abroad for a week and a half, come home for a week, go to a training camp for 2.5 weeks, and then go to the next tournament. And
So you're gone a lot. That's a lot of living out of a duffel bag or suitcase.
Yeah, I got where literally my carry-on had everything I cared about in it, and then would get home and be like, I haven't touched any of this stuff in months, and do I even need it? So I was like, I sold my car. I started just getting rid of all this stuff.
Oh, nice. You went to the minimal lifestyle. So the goal is compete in 2028, and then what do you see, like, what's the future of, like, hey, this is what I really want to, is it staying in real estate? Is it getting more into the commercial side? Is there something else that you have on the horizon that you're like, hey, I really want to focus on this area?
Yeah, so I'm trying to build more of these sports centers because, just like you said, we looked at the whole U.S. There's like one or two in the whole U.S. Like,
right.
And I think when I started running the numbers on like disabled people in every city, and it's like 5 to 20%.
Right.
And you go, that city's got millions of people. There's literally a couple 100,000 people sitting there that have no program. They have no way to get into this.
Right. Yeah. So how do you continue? That was when I don't know if I told you this story, but so we did a pickleball tournament as a fundraiser for Adaptive Sport, and the guy that is I know very little about pickleball too, but I find people that do know. So Al joined our board for Health Through Wholeness, and he had been running pickleball tournaments for other groups.
Okay.
So when he started talking about this, he moved over with us. So we're going to do another one in October or early November. But he was talking to one of the paddle makers. I think it was Jula or something, and he had sent him a thing about, hey, we're doing a fundraiser, and he was surprised they got back that they wanted to do a Zoom meeting with him.
Okay.
So he's on this Zoom meeting, and they're asking, and they want to talk more about adaptive sport than they do.
Okay. Yeah.
Like they didn't care about pickleball, right? That they knew that. So have a great conversation. Then they called back and wanted a second meeting, Zoom meeting, to talk about the wellness center.
Okay.
And it turns out that one of the guys he was talking to was in a wheelchair.
Okay.
He's one of like the national sales guy. And he's like, my only question is, when are you going to open one in Maryland? It's like, well, we got to get one open in Bakersfield first before.
Yeah, let me do one. But hey, yeah, put me in contact. That's the goal. I'm putting together the business plan, and I'm talking to finance to try and, all right, anywhere I can set one up, like, yeah,
get the model down. So, oh, cool. So this has become not just a pet project, but a potential business outing, and just, I think you hit on it, right? That was the thing I was surprised about. It's just the need. And so where do people go? And we see it from the therapy side that, so one of our clinics is neuro-based, so we see spinal cord injuries, amputations. But the world changed about 10 years ago with how much physical therapy you get, right? Mm-hmm. And they changed the definition to, it used to be medical necessity, and they changed it to a reasonable chance for improved function.
Okay.
So you see all these people, like, especially with kids that have CP or spina bifida or, these long-term things, they'll go, there's no more chance of improved function here. So at the time, I'm seeing the number of visits that people get in formal therapy, but then it's back to that gap of, okay, now what?
Yeah.
Where do you go? Like, we can start you on a therapy program, but if you don't have some place to go, continue working on it.
Yeah, that was in, like, I want to say, like, I got injured after one of my races, and I was like sitting in my room for like 2 years. Like, literally, I see my parents and I see 0 other people. And where do you go? What do you do? And it's like, you got to bootstrap it. You got to ride your bike in your house until you're strong enough to go outside and ride it outside. And then you ride it outside, and then you sign up for the able-bodied stuff. You get your ass kicked.
Right. Yeah. It's like, wait, this is an uphill battle I'm facing here. So, yeah. And I think that was one, because the guy that used to work for me, and he's been helping me with some of the early designs on this, he made the comment, like, where are people like me? Like, because like you said, a lot of times you don't realize the numbers are as big as you just quoted, because you just don't see something like,
Yeah, they're at home 99%, and they leave for a doctor visit, and then they go back home, and it's house, car, office, car, house. And
right. Yeah. And that was, I think, we had a few meetings, and there was him, Nathan, the guy that was the football coach at the local high school here was injured in an ATV accident, and he was a paraplegic.
okay.
And then another guy that I set up this early steering committee with was also in a wheelchair. But the funny part would be when we'd go to a restaurant, you'd see people walk in and look and be like, there's 3 people in wheelchairs at one table. Like, it's like, yeah, it happens, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just weird how people respond when they're like,
Oh yeah, the Paralympic training camps where you'll have, me missing an arm and someone else on a prosthetic leg and someone else in a wheelchair, and the 4 or 5 of us are like walking along, and everyone looks. They're like, you've never expected to see these 5 people together, or that 5 of them will be in one place.
yeah, I mean, it's just, occasionally you'd see somebody, but it's not. But when you see a group, it's like, oh my gosh, there's more of these people than we think. And I think that's the other part of it. But eventually I want to use this to branch out, is even to other outlets locally, like golf courses, ski resorts. You know, everybody's supposed to, I think that we've stumbled into everybody talks about ADA, but somehow it never made it into the fitness world or the sports world.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know how many golf courses we have in town. I don't think there's one like fully accessible golf cart.
Yeah. Do you know how hard it is to roll over those grass hills and uphill in a wheelchair, like while you're carrying your clubs? Like,
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to swing out of a chair instead of. So I think there's going to be a lot of that we can start shining a light on how many people there really are.
Yeah, I feel if we can if we build the centers and we get visibility, and we're able to take people from their rooms and get them up, and now they're able to function in the real world, and they're out and about, then they'll get jobs, they'll get opportunities, and yeah.
Right. Yeah, you'll see it a lot more. And then the center's going to have a full basketball court. So I think that's one of the things that I think it shows people that you still can be involved. Right. I mean, I'd love to eventually have like sports leagues at the centers where it's like,
we set up a dozen centers. We make our own league, and yeah, we have Bakersfield play Washington, play Maryland, play.
Yeah, you just move up the ladder, right? So, but it gives those early injured hope that, oh, okay, maybe everything's not over with. Maybe there is a venue that I can still be involved in sports. I can still be involved in business.
Yeah, like I also see like when you create a center like that, you create a lot of peripheral, we're gonna need people we're gonna need van drivers, we're gonna need water boys, we're gonna have home care, because we're gonna concentrate the disabled into one area. Right. And we'll create jobs for the local population, now there's a center where there wasn't one. We need admin, we need staff.
Right. Yeah, and it continues to grow. And I think just with your interest, when we started looking, and we looked at a few buildings. I mean, I was surprised at how many options there were. I think we just found the best one, because just where it sits and the availability of, and then getting the lot next to it. So there's parking lot.
Yeah, it worked out really well. Like there was, a couple we looked at, and I was like, this is at the top end of what we can afford. But yeah, it was like, right. Hey, that was the one. That was the right choice.
Yeah, I think we got the right one. And I think it is amazing when you see just the number of people. Like, there's almost a little bit of it. Like, I've been meeting with a lot of the political people, and like, hey, this is what we're doing. And it was like years ago, I started League of Dreams, which was a sports league for kids with disabilities, right? And it was that simple when we started. It was like, well, wait a minute. We had our pediatric division that was seeing all these kids, everything from CP to autism, Down syndrome. It's like, well, where do these kids play sports? Yeah. And they don't. And then when I went and met with this is probably 15 years ago. I went and met with a city parks and rec and the other rec department in town, and I was like, "Hey, I have this idea, but I don't want to recreate the wheel here. If you guys already have it, then." They were like, "No, and we're really supposed to have it. So if you want to create it, we'd be happy to partner with you and do it."
Yeah, I feel like everyone wants it, and they need a driving force. They need people that'll, all right, we will put the hours in and make it happen, and organize and administrate, and then once someone builds it, a Field of Dreams, League of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
Right. Yeah, and that's what happened. I think our first year with League of Dreams, we had about 30 kids out there. Now it's routinely 300 to 400 kids every season. So we do baseball, basketball, bowling, cheerleading. It just once it started to more and more sports came along.
Yeah.
We have dance now. We have cheerleading, but it's a chance for these kids to be involved in all of it. I was talking to one of the CEOs of the hospital here and talking about the center, and he brought up an interesting point. Well, wait, how much of this is going to be overlap with some of the other stuff that you're doing? And I said, because I think, because it's how my brain works, that I want to do this one, and then I want to do a pediatric version of it.
Okay.
So it's same thing, some place for these kids to go to continue getting service, but that's fun. And, it's not like this stagnant medical world. I mean, that was my thing from the beginning of starting Terrio therapy, was like, I don't want the walls white. I don't want it to be a medical sterile feeling place.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I think that we clicked on the same vision of, no, this needs to be like an uplifting, high energy place, not all sad. And
no, you go here to have fun and get better, and and to whatever level that is. So, if we produce Paralympians, great. If you show up for 10 years and all you do is play casually, but that was,
yeah, you still had an outlet that you never had.
Yeah.
You're not going to go down to the park and try to get in a pickup game, because it'll be the same thing, right? Like, oh, great, I got to play.
I'm 3 feet tall and they're 7 feet tall.
Yeah, exactly. How's this going to work? Like, this isn't even fun anymore, right? Because that competitive side of you wants to be at least, hey, I still want to compete.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like kind of the laughing stock or the person that's just left out.
Well,
like, that's no good. So, no, I think it's awesome how it's all going, and I love that idea, because I think it is gonna, once we shine a light on this thing, I think there's gonna be a lot more communities that are gonna be like, hey, wait a minute, because that even happened back with League of Dreams. We got it going, and I got contacted by Fresno, and they said, hey, we heard about this program. We want to know how you got it going, what you did. And at first I was like, but they were coming at it from a totally different way, right? They were coming at it from, hey, we have this big park and we want to do all this stuff in it, and I was like, well, hang on, you're kind of putting the cart before the horse. Like, you're going to spend a ton of money and not know if it's going to catch. I said, we did the complete opposite. I just partnered with what was already there.
Yeah.
I didn't go build gyms and baseball fields, and I was like, they're already out there. Let's use what's there.
Yeah.
And then if we need down the road, I think what we're doing with adaptive sports different in that there is nothing like that, right?
Yeah, it's you got the top end, the Paralympic program, and you're on your own to reach that level. That's
right. So how do you get there, right? Yeah, I think that was the biggest shocker to me, was just because in my mind I was comparing, like, well, okay, you got the Olympics and then the Paralympics, and it's similar, but on the Olympic side, there's when you listen to how much coaching goes into that.
They start when they're 3 years old, and there's a dedicated, you go here, this coach, and this one produces Olympians, and you go to this race, and
right, yeah, it's all mapped out. And that was the surprise to me, was like learning from people who are trying to make it up the Paralympics, that there is no, other than maybe talking to other people who compete, like, okay, what do I do? Where do I go?
Yeah, seriously, no one. I got a call from literally like he runs a club in Utah, and he's like, I saw your name on the national register. You've never been to an event before. Who are you? And I'm like, hi, I'm Greg. And he's like, okay, cool. This is how it all works. And no, I don't work for them. There's 5 guys and you're number 6, and we've never met. So we thought you might need some help with this.
Oh, to try to get
6
to 5 is a big jump if only 5 are going, right?
Yeah.
So what advice did he give you? Like,
He told me, so this was like January of 2023, and then the first event was in March, and then qualification for the Paralympics ended in the next May. So I had like basically 14 or 15 months. He's like, you can make it if you try really hard. And I was like, oh, that was completely not on my radar. I signed up because I had been training on my own for a couple of years. It was like, I'll go to a competition, like we'll see what happens, right?
right? Yeah, and give it a shot.
And he's like, oh no, you can make the team. You could, yeah.
So you must have had good eye-hand coordination though, somewhere along the line.
Yeah, so like I played baseball. I was a catcher, so
Oh, okay.
7 years of that. So
Okay. Yeah, because that was just shocking to me because we even had a buddy of mine was a former professional hockey player, and I put him up there just because I wanted to see, like,
oh, yeah.
if you take a top athlete and make him sit in the chair, and he was like, I have no,
there's no instincts, there's no, and then
all of a sudden it's like, so, but then like with Kevin, he was a boxer before, so he had that eye-hand coordination. So he seemed to be able to accelerate a lot faster. And I guess if you're a boxer, it really doesn't matter if you got garb on and somebody's sitting a couple feet away from you.
He is a top-tier straight shot. All those boxing, whatever, yeah, that shot, that's very solid.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's, for anybody, like if you're involved in athletics and you have an injury, it takes it to a whole different level because I haven't been an athletic trainer for years. It's an able-bodied person tears an ACL and they're in a bad mental state thinking that their career is over, everything's done.
Yeah.
At least those guys you can look at it and go, come on. It's just 6 months to a year, you're going to be back 110% of what you were before.
Yeah, you'll lose 1 inch off your vertical and you never use it anyways.
Yeah, exactly. So, but to have to take that mentality to shift to, wait a minute, I can no longer walk, or I lost an arm or a leg, or just that psychological recovery, I think, that goes with it. But I think a part of it is just knowing it can be done.
Yeah, it's like I said, for me, it was question marks. No one knew what to expect, and if they had, some people told me I'd never walk again, and I just disregarded it. But a lot of people get told, by people they trust, you'll never walk again, and they go, oh, okay. And
right. Yeah, but I think that's part of what we were talking about. So we were talking about at first the childhood thing and how we tend to let others define the box we live in. But that happens again then.
Yeah.
With you have a disability where people are like, oh, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. And then families try to protect you.
Oh, yeah. There was this, the State Department does something called diplomacy through sport. And they invited me to this camp in Florida, and they invited people from the country of Georgia out there. And one of the guys he brought his son out, and when we got to that camp at the start of the week, his son held his hand 24/7. That was just what they did. They walked around hand in hand everywhere, didn't do anything for himself. And then he looked at us on the U.S. team that are like, yeah, I flew here on my own. I carry all my own gear. I go to these competitions. And he was just like, you could just see his brain like, mind blown. And by the end of the week, he's running around, he's playing, he's dressing himself, and like his dad was in tears. We're like, they never thought he could do any of this.
Right. Yeah, until you see it and they're like, oh wait, because I as a parent, I have 3 kids, and that's one of your fears, right? Something's going to happen to one of my kids, and we think that it's our job to protect them, and you can't all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's not possible. But then the parent takes on the guilt role of, oh, if I'd have done this. And then it becomes more like trying to help but not helping. So in that whole cycle, with that in mind, like you had been told a lot of bad stuff, right? That's the stuff you don't want to hear.
Yeah, you're gonna die.
You're gonna die.
2, you're never gonna walk again. And 3, even if you do, you'll have so many injuries and so much pain, it'll be impossible to function. And
yeah, so how do you get out of that box and become a Paralympic athlete? Like,
I remember I was sitting on my couch one day, and just like I was fresh out of the hospital and just sitting there like thinking about what I had just gone through, and went, did I just suffer through all that, all those surgeries and all that pain and all that to sit here for 50 years and do nothing? I was like,
right,
no way am I going to sit here for 50 years in this much pain. I'm going to make it worth it. So
okay, so it was a conscious decision that I've got to go do something.
yeah, I was, no matter how much it hurts or what I have to do, I'm going to get better. And like, yeah, I'd go swim and start bleeding in the pool and then be like, that's the price I have to pay, and keep swimming and then get back out. And yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it does take that big step out of, but I think it happens to everybody in life, right? At some point, you've got to decide, like, hey, I'm going to take this on. I'm going to be the one that leads this charge. That's just at a whole different level when it's.
Yeah, we all have a sink or swim moment, and you know, if, for most people, it's more of a decision. For it's not a mountain to climb; it's to
Right. Yeah, and especially if you don't know that there's people who've been able to climb that mountain before. So I think that's the amazing part of it. And it's actually, when I watch like the Paralympic Games, I wish they did a better job at telling those stories of what it's really like to overcome.
Yeah, it's so many Paralympians have amazing stories. Like it's, you know, to be a Paralympian, something bad had to happen either when you were born or at some point in your life, and then you had to, you had to change your mental state and decide to go for it, and then you have all the struggles of the regular Olympians. The how do I work out all the time and recover and get the training I need and the funding and you know.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too, right? Like, I mean, I know just looking around at families, like the amount of money they spend on their kids to get baseball lessons or get basketball lessons or to play in travel leagues, and I mean that's already a ton of money. So now if you put on top of that,
yeah, now you need a $5,000 specialized wheelchair and you break it every couple of seasons. And
right, exactly. Well, it was even like the hand bikes. I was talking to a guy that owns a bike shop here, who's going to be another one of our connections, but he was telling me there's a national organization that will help finance arm bikes, because he said they're like 3,500 plus.
Yeah, like a steel frame one is in the low threes, and then a carbon fiber one, which you need at the top level because everyone's got them, and those ones are 5+. And
right. Yeah. So it's not just. I mean, people complain about the price of just a regular bike. That's pretty high end regular bike. I mean, that might be the high end level, right? When you get the carbon.
Yeah, it's right on par with those top tier, like that. You know, they're Olympic professional level tools at that level, and
right. But yeah, how do you finance that if you're not on the Olympic team and getting some money from sponsors and stuff? How do you?
Yeah, and that depends on the program. Like our team, the Paralympic parafencing program's barely funded, so we don't get a paycheck.
Yeah, there's not like, hey, here's some money to live on. Here's some, so you guys all are having to. So that's the combination, though, right? You got hours of training to put in. You still have to have. You
still got to have like
revenue, a job.
Yeah, your 9 to 5 or whatever you can manage, and on top of that, yeah, now you're already, you have less energy and everything's harder because you're disabled and.
Yeah, it's a bad combination. Well, you also need the flexibility to travel, right?
Yeah.
So if you're working just a job.
Yeah, we have one guy who made the Paralympics, and like the competition he was at to qualify, the last one of the season, he's like, I'm calling in sick for 3 days, and I'm just telling him I can't get the time off. They won't give it to me, and I'm just not showing up. Like,
right. Yeah, it's crazy. So you think you'd almost have to be like an entrepreneur, or
it works
at
better.
Least just have control of your schedule, right? So you can have some say in what you're going to do and when you can be gone, when you can't be gone, and
yeah, it's. Being an entrepreneur helps. We have one guy, Nico, actually, he's a freelance journalist, so he'll like go and photo and blog about the places he goes to. And
oh, cool. So something along that line. That's interesting stuff. Yeah, it's just, and it's part of why doing these podcasts is telling those stories. Like, what is it really like? Because it's easy. Somebody could sit back and go, oh yeah, but they have sponsors that pay for everything, and they have people that carry their stuff for them, and it's like no, that's not.
No, I'm lugging my carry-on my back of 50 pounds. I've got my 50 to 70 pound gear bag. I've got my wheelchair, and sometimes I have a portable frame that's another 50 pounds. And I'm just like rolling through the middle of Italy on cobbles with it, with people staring at me like,
who's this guy?
He doesn't look like a homeless guy with a shopping cart, but
that's the only other thing I can compare it to. Like, the guy's got some high-end stuff. That's unbelievable. Well, I think it's awesome, man. I think me and you is just one of those weird universe things where it's like, had we not started the parafencing program, we'd probably never had the meeting to, and that was even you guys, you and Nico, coming here out of your own time to help Kevin train. So I think that just showed me that there's an underlying community, however small it might be, of, hey, let us come show you what's possible, right? Like this can happen. There are people out there that have done it before. Here's what you need. But I thought that was cool of you guys coming here, and I think you spent a week up here, like, or 5 days or whatever.
Like 3 or 4 days. Yeah. And Lucas invited us. So I was like, oh, cool. I'm getting invited places. Like,
yeah. Well, and I think that's what it can become too. Like once you start getting these centers and you start showing people, like,
yeah, totally. It's you get to be a pro athlete. You may not be on on TV selling out stadiums, but you get and you're like, this is way better than what I was doing.
Right. Yeah. And I think just the inspiration behind it is awesome. Like for kids that, like you said, nobody intentionally says, hey, you know what, I want to be a Paralympic athlete, right? Because something bad has to happen, just by definition.
Yeah. So
it's not like oh, this is what I ask a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's it's never gonna be I want to be in the Paralympic Games.
Yeah, I want to lose a leg and then spend 6 years rehabbing it, and then I want to go run on it.
Yeah, exactly. Because no matter how good it is, it still doesn't feel great, right? Like you said, so you still gotta have pain.
Yeah, I'm always in a lot of pain, and I just, at first it was like, always present, and then you just kind of learn to tune it out. And like I'd done like meditation stuff, and I was like really good at it, because apparently it's the same skill, just learning to block out the stuff that you're not isn't helping.
Yeah, it was when I went through PT school years ago, 30 years ago. There was we were taught about the pain receptors and all that stuff, and in the last 10 to 15 years, they've started talking about the globalization of pain. That a majority of pain is actually in your mind and how you interpret the pain. There's still nociceptors, pain fibers that say, hey, we're in pain.
Yeah.
But it answers why some people, a little bit of pain is just overwhelming, and other people can endure crazy amounts of pain. They're able to control.
I had like a really weird experience. So I had this intense phantom pain. And phantom pain's not real. There's nothing from the arm sending the pain signal, purely in my brain. And one day I just sat there and just focused on it for like hours. And then I learned to kind of separate the signals between damage and pain. And so it's like, now I know if I get hit, if I took damage or not, and I completely block out the pain.
Right. Okay. So yeah, it's just controlling it. That's amazing. And that's, I think, why part of it, of having the center, is having that mental health component too. And not that everybody needs psychology, but that ability to have like that life coach that shows you what's possible.
Like, if someone that had to do it all the hard way, I'm like, if I can just tell them this is the goal and shorten them from 10 or 12 years to 2 years, like,
right. Yeah, you're going to streamline it, and then they have all that more time to train, right? But when you take 10 years of going through all the therapies and then trying to find somebody who has an idea of what you could do.
Yeah. 10 years of just, I tried that sport, that didn't work. I went for an ocean swim and realized I need to keep a shoe on at all times because I shredded my foot, and then I'm out for 6 months.
Oh yeah, that's true, right? You don't have the pain.
Yeah. I had one triathlon. I got back from the swim to the transition and just saw blood coming out of my shoe, and I was like, that's bad. I'll look at that after the race though.
Well, that's the epitome of blocking stuff out. So that's awesome. So as we're getting ready to launch Adaptasport, what would you tell like people that have gone through a disability or teenagers? Because I know when I worked at a spinal cord rehab place before I went to PT school, and the guys in there were mostly quadriplegics because from diving accidents, and they were all in their like late teens. The gals were more paraplegics from falls or car accidents, but there's a weird little spike there in the late teens, early 20s of
you get freedom and then you try stuff and some stuff doesn't work, and it depends on
how bad it does go. But so what would you tell like somebody that might have just got injured, or more importantly their parents, of like, okay, so you gotta late teen or teenager, early adult that gets injured.
Yeah, there is more than one way to do everything. Like whatever you wanted to do, there is another way to accomplish it. And like, the world you grew up in, that was one playbook for this is how you do it with 2 arms and 2 legs, and everything kind of works. Like now you're going to go off of a different playbook, but you can still reach the same goals.
Right. Okay. So not being afraid to try, right? Like,
yeah, and don't get embarrassed. Like if you have to spill water on yourself, like you'll get over it real quick.
Right. Yeah, I think that's just human nature, right? Like I've over the years being involved in fitness and therapy, no matter how hard they try to fight it, gyms have people have a negative impression of a gym, right? Because it's the judgment, I don't want to go in there and have some guy like benching 500 pounds next to me and I'm like,
yeah, totally
barely do the bar. And I think that's what I think we can overcome that with. You remove all that judgment, right? You come to the wellness center, it's like, yeah, so what? Like,
yeah, like that's one of the nice things. You'll have all ability levels, from able-bodied to people that are fresh out of the hospital. So wherever you fit in somewhere.
Yeah, and I thought with the early group I was talking to, that was my original thought was just a big open format, and they were the ones that said we would rather prefer the physical therapy be like separate.
Okay.
Because I don't want to go back and rethink of all the steps that it took for them to get,
Yeah.
Like you see somebody brand new spinal cord injury that's not a fun.
No, yeah, you kind of want to, either block it out or just move on and make new memories and, that are more useful. And yeah, I know for me to actually go back to parafencing after I worked so hard to get out of a wheelchair and walk and ride a bike, it took them like years to tell me to sit in a wheelchair again. I was like, no, I'm not.
No, I got it. Finally got out of that. You want me to sit back down in that chair?
Yeah. And then I did it. It was like, oh, this is way fun. And the wheelchair doesn't matter. It's like riding a bike. It's just.
It's just there, right? You're just sitting down, just what it happens to be. But I think that's where that inspiration can really come, and we can grow this into an amazing program. Just to address all those needs and to show people like you can still, and not just sports and sports, athletics, working out, but part of my plan is to also have like art therapy in there, music therapy. Like you can do any of these things, like you said. It's just you have to adapt it a little bit, but it's not. Oh well, that door is totally closed. There's no reason to even look.
Yeah,
we're gonna give them a reason to look.
Yeah, totally. Well, they'll see other people doing it and go, "Oh, this is how I do it with one hand, or no hands, or this is how." Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be the goal of it. Well, my friend, I appreciate you coming on. I think.
One question.
Oh.
I got one question.
Yeah.
I just gotta ask. Your comedic sense on the entire situation. You're funny.
Oh, thanks.
You're very funny. When and how did that begin? Because your situation.
That's true.
Isn't necessarily it's the complete opposite of funny, actually.
Yeah.
But you have like your jokes and your puns. At what point did you say, "Okay, this is my life. Let me find the comedic angle"?
Literally, my first thought. I woke up in the hospital, and the second my brain turned back on, and I looked down, and I was like, "Oh, there's no fixing that," and just.
That's good.
Okay.
What was the Monty Python? Oh, it was a flesh wound, right?
Yeah.
Like.
Right. Okay, cool. That was
awesome.
I had to get that one on camera.
Yeah. Well, it's good. Good question. Well, see, he's a processor. He sits back there and is like, wait, because after the shows, he's always like, man, we got to follow up because I have all these questions that I want to ask. So, no, I think it's awesome. I think we're gonna go down there and take a look at the building and start getting ready, and let's make this thing happen.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you.